Hello and welcome to another edition of Community Forum. My name is Joesph Feaster. I'm the host of the program. And today, as you can see, I'm dressed very casually because it's wintry here in Stoughton today. A little bit snow, a little bit chilly, even though it's not winter yet. But nonetheless, it's warm here in the studio and I have a very, very important guest with me this day. But let me just set the context for our discussion that's going to follow. If you ever bought land or sold land or property here in Norfolk County, if you ever went to and had a Homestead Act document drawn up, if you ever wanted to record any documents related to your property, it could be a mortgage discharge, those are really nice to have, then you had an occasion to go by the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. And I'm honored to have with me, and this is an elected position, the Registrar of the Norfolk Registry, William P. O'Donnell. And before I let you off, I think we'll move the camera. I would like them to see who you are. So I want to welcome you, Bill.
Joe, thank you very much for having me, and thanks to Stoughton Media for putting this on.
Well, I want to, again, I always like to have the viewing audience know something about the person that's there, and your staff person, I believe, let me see if I can get the name correctly. I believe her name is Alicia.
Sure.
Alicia Gardner did a great job. She gave me enough. I could have you here for a week, but nonetheless.
I don't know if your ratings would go up with that,
well,
but
in terms, well, at least tell her thank you for providing the information. But let me tell you, the viewing audience, a little bit about my guest. As I pointed out, he is the Registrar of Deeds for Norfolk County since 2002. And I stated that that's the principal land records office for Norfolk County. But that's not the only elected position that he has held. For 10 years, he was elected county commissioner in Norfolk County and a trustee of the Norfolk County's highly regarded agricultural high school. He served as a member of the Democratic State Committee, and it has been and is a longtime member of the Norwood Democratic Town Committee. He served on the planning board in Norwood, and he has been a town meeting representative in Norwood. I'm a town meeting representative here, so I know exactly what that entails. He graduated from Boston College, Law School, Georgetown University, and Xaverian Brothers High School, and he was admitted to practice law in Massachusetts in 1985. He served as an assistant district attorney in Norfolk County under Bill Delahunt before entering private practice, where he was involved with real estate conveyancing and related areas. He's involved in local and regional bar activities and has served as an officer of the Norfolk County Bar Association, including its president. He's done a lot of things at the registry as far as bringing it up to state of art in terms of technology, outreach, consumer programs. You know it. He's been in the media. He is, a man of all seasons. But most of all, the most important part is that he's married to Susan Thornton O'Donnell. They live in Norwood with their 3 children, William, Jennifer, and James. So once again, wanted to say, Mr. Registrar, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, thanks, Joe, and hopefully, your viewers will learn a little something about the Registry of Deeds. It's an arm of government many people don't know about.
That's right.
But when you think about it, the biggest asset most of us have are our homes, and that's what the registry deals with. So there's a lot of information that we try to get out there, and we appreciate being able to come on a show like yours, and hopefully they'll learn something, as you said, about mortgage discharges or homesteads and things like that.
Well, what I found interesting, I like to, again, when you put things in context, what you want to do is let's take folks to the history first, because I found it quite fascinating that now I knew that when talking about Stoughton and how it was created and the role it played in forming many of the towns, and in fact going all the way into Boston in the early stages of the 17th century, the Registry of Deeds here began in 1793, and so can you talk a little bit about the history?
Sure, and I do enjoy history. Norfolk County was established in 1793. As a matter of fact, the signer of the legislation was Governor John Hancock, who was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Currently, there are 28 communities, but and we still have people coming in doing research, and they say, why do you have parts of Boston listed? Well, Norfolk County included Roxbury, Dorchester,
right.
West Roxbury, Hyde Park, and areas like that. There's plenty of history here in Norfolk County, as you indicated. 4 presidents were born here in Norfolk County, and there's a lot of history. As a matter of fact, our chief role at the registry is to make sure that the records are recorded accurately and securely, but we do try to weave history in. We have a notable land records project going where we're trying to identify people within the communities. We reached out to the historical societies and commissions to try to identify people like Paul Revere that had property here, Horace Mann, who was an educator, Justice Brandeis lived in Dedham. He was a Supreme Court justice. So there's a lot of history here, and we're trying to make that history come alive. We just finished a project from 1793 to 1900. They would handwrite the documents out. Yes. So we have it all online, as you mentioned. We prided ourselves on the modernization.
In fact, they did it kind of pretty because they did like scrolling or something. It wasn't in terms of like we write it out now. It was kind of pretty fancy.
Well, and a scrivener, that was their job, and they were usually picked because of their flair for penmanship. Now, I went to St. Catherine's School in Norwood, so the nuns made sure we knew penmanship. And when I started this project, it was really a commitment to the people that use the registry. A big part of our economy is the real estate economy. So lawyers, title examiners, engineers, they're part of that big sector, that real estate economy. And you got to make sure that the records, that people can read them, and they were hard to read. So that's why we started the project. But you mentioned I have 3 children. My youngest a few years ago, he's in college now, but when he was graduating high school, I noticed a lot of his contemporary, his fellow graduates, they don't know penmanship. They don't know cursive. So what we've done, if you go on our website, Book 1, Page 1, if you went to that, the first document from 1793 is viewable. It's handwritten. But if you hit another button, the typed version of that document comes out. And the reason I mention it is the lawyers, title examiners, and engineers like it, but we see more and more people doing historical and genealogical research at the registry.
And that's the part that I found, even though I knew the fact that you had maintained those records as the registry, which is fascinating as I was going through the material that was sent to me, because I, as a lawyer and who does real estate, I've been to the registry, for recording documents and also handling closings, but one of the things that was pointed out, and you alluded to it, that when the registry was founded in 1793, I want folks to know George Washington was president of these United States.
Right, and the county has changed. When it started, it was an agrarian county. Some people look at the map and they say, "Well, there's a couple of towns, Hingham and Hull. How come Cohasset is separate?" Well, Hingham and Hull were part of Norfolk County at the last minute. They thought their interests were maritime in nature, and eventually they ended up in Plymouth County. They didn't want to take the horse to Dedham. They thought it was too long a trip, and that Norfolk County was agrarian in nature. And look at the changes that have taken place.
Absolutely. You talk about the penmanship and cursive. See, I went to Catholic school as well. I went to Catholic school in New York, though, and the same thing. You had the sheet with the lines, and you had to stay within them.
Bringing back memories.
Yeah, but that's the historical part that folks talk about. But as well, besides your program of modernizing those records from the standpoint of taking the cursive that was there, the scriveners that the scriveners did, and making it more readable for the users, the lawyers, the engineers, the architects, etc. You've also done other things in terms of modernizing the registry. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, we're probably most proud of the fact that for the first time we have internet land record research of the records. We implemented that at the registry. So if anybody, and that's what I try to say, our building is at 649 High Street. It is not just for lawyers, title examiners, and engineers. Anyone can come into that building. We have over 45 computers sprinkled around the building that people can use. But if you, we prided ourselves on trying to bring the registry records into people's homes and businesses. So if you go onto our website at www.norfolkdeeds.org, you can do the research yourself. You can look up this information, and we try to bring it out to the communities because we have computer seminars. So if people check our website, it's a research tool, but we also have information on that website. For instance, we hold computer seminars that are available to the public. We usually do them in the spring and the fall, and anyone can come in, and they come by at 4:30. We have a little class, and by the end of the class, they're looking up their own information.
And I think we have, oh, there it is. I think we have something which shows a class that you held.
Sure, and we have all kinds. We've opened it up. People come, some community officials come. We've had police officers there, people within the different elected and appointed officials who may need to learn how to use the registry, or they have a need to look up information. So that's you know, what we've done. We've tried to, you know, in modernizing it, we still want to make it's a people business. And
well, let me just take it, because I know, again, even with the great efforts that you have done in terms of modernizing, so that one can, particularly as users, as lawyers, when we want to look up someone's the title, or we want to look at someone's deed, we are able to do it now sitting in my office, as opposed to having to trudge from Boston over to Dedham in order to look at. I think much like the folks in Cohasset and Hingham that wanted to say, I didn't want to take the horse out to Dedham, but there's also, now I know you have fees and they're basically modest. Let's talk about, because using that, there is a fee for that. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, the research is free. They can go online and the research is free. As you mentioned, a lot of the professionals, you know, it saves them a trip. So there's a dollar cost per page.
Right.
It's in the statute, what we also suggest, you know, if people need copies of documents, they should check again our website. We do office hours. We go around to the community. So this modernization effort, when I first started as register, when we went to the Stoughton Town Hall, I used to work for Congressman Moakley down when I went to school down at Georgetown University. It was like the old days. You'd be taking notes down and have to go back to the registry. Now, you know, we have office hours in all the communities. We come in and we can use the computer and try to, you know, help people at our office hours. And we've also been out to various groups, whether it's senior centers, a lot of the veterans groups, the American Legions, the VFWs have us in, and we bring our computers. So that's what's great about the Modernization Initiative, is that if people still want to come to 649 High Street, we still are one of the few registries that print books, you know, so you can look up book 1, page 1, or when I started, it was book 17,000. We're approaching book 36,000.
All right.
But all that information, and again, there's no I in team. I have a great staff down at the registry. All those documents and all those images and all those plans are now online for people to view. And there's over 6 million images in our library that we've put in that go, as I say, from today back to 1793.
Well, this is also an opportunity, Mr. Registrar, to educate folks as well. So let's do a little land registry education, a little
Sure.
class here. So therefore, you have the process is Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so have, Mrs. and Mrs. Abel and Baker they've sold their property now, and they're going to sell it to some individuals, and there's going to be the deeds, there's going to be the mortgages, there's going to be Homestead Act and other documents are going to record it. Walk them through what that process would look like, and let's place them at the registry. I've been downstairs on that basement floor, and you know, where they have the closing tables, and have been there. So let's walk them through the process.
And that's another thing that we try to do for customer service, because people, the probate court used to be there, and when the probate court left, we took a lot of the space downstairs, and a lot of the historical societies and commissions, including here in Stoughton, sent us pictures, and we put them all around to make people comfortable so they can come to the registry. If people are selling their property, I always say go to a professional. When I have plumbing problems, I hate paying a plumber, but I do. And so I always say, yes, my training's an attorney, but you have good attorneys out there, and it is the biggest asset you're selling or buying. So you probably should get some advice and counsel on many levels. If you're at the registry, usually that means it's a good thing because the closing's going forward. Usually it's the little things that the consumers might want to check into. For instance, if I was selling a house, I might want to make sure my past mortgages have been discharged. Now, when people borrow money, they have to record a mortgage. And that mortgage tells the world that they owe money to a certain lender, most of the time a bank or a mortgage company. Well, when you pay off that mortgage, you should make sure that the mortgage discharge has been recorded. Now, the banks are getting better. The Mass Association of Registers of Deeds was involved with the past Attorney General in a lawsuit. And I think you see it more on the bigger banks. People forget sometimes the bigger banks don't always follow rules. They're getting a little better. I'm a big believer in the community banks. If you have great community banks in this area,
and you have more out-of-state mortgage companies doing the business. Again, as a practitioner, I can talk about the horrors of not having a discharge.
Right, and so people who are thinking of selling their house are saying, what are they talking about? Well, here's what we're talking about. If you go to sell your house and there's an outstanding mortgage, it used to be the attorneys might close on that. Now, because of the different troubles and different liabilities, most of the time they want a discharge. So a lot of people are coming into the registry saying, wait a minute, I paid this thing off 20 years ago. And as I said, if they dealt with a local community bank, a lot of times you just walk in, you get good customer service. Chances are the vice president's in the next room. Him or her could sign the discharge and you just get it recorded. It's an easy fix. But people forget, sometimes banks went out of business. Sometimes banks, went bankrupt back in the 1990s. Some banks have merged. So we have a document. If you're thinking of selling a house or buying a house, check our website. We have information for first-time home buyers. But with respect to mortgage discharges, we have a section there that says, where has my bank gone? It gives them federal and state contact information so that they can track down, the consumer can track down and try to get their mortgage discharged. Make it easier for them.
Let's take that piece, because as a practitioner, I don't do conveyancing. I represent buyers or sellers. But I've had more recently, this is more so, I've been practicing 42 years, but this is recently, I'm finding more situations whereby, because of all the changes that are going on in the banking industry, more mortgage companies that are from out of state, the discharges are not getting filed. And the worst situation that you were alluding to it, is that the buyer has their mortgage, you're going towards trying to get to the closing, you get the title back, and there's a discharge, oftentimes even before your ownership, that has not been recorded.
And technically, when things aren't discharged, whether it's a mortgage or maybe maybe there was some type of lien and you've paid it off, you've got to make sure these things are cleaned up. And a lot of the consumers, it's funny, we do office hours. Some of them will come in with their paperwork, and I'll say, do you mind if I go through it? And the old discharge from 20 years ago is there.
Yes.
It's just a lot of times the banks didn't make clear to the consumer that they have to get that recorded. A lot of times, especially the bigger banks, I don't think they sent it. I know how we run. You mentioned I've done a lot of public service, but I was also in the private sector, and I've tried to take some of that private sector thinking to the Registry of Deeds. So when mail comes in at our Registry of Deeds, it's put on. So there's no chance that a discharge is sitting in mailboxes and things like could happen.
Well, we ordered. Again, you talked about the legislation that you worked on as a result of the lawsuit with the Attorney General on that. Maybe what we need to do is to make sure that those persons they do the recording, because I do have lenders who, in fact, do the recording. Versus sending it to, I have had more situations that you're talking about, leafing through a client's papers, bingo, there's the discharge that was sent to them. with the the letter that says you need to record this, and they just stuck it away.
Right, and I think the banks are doing a better job too. If they're going to record it in, well, we talk politics, as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify.
That's
if
right.
your bank is sending in the discharge, you can go on our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, run your name. When the mortgage comes up, you hit a button called abstract, and it will tell you if the discharge has been recorded against that mortgage. And that's some of the things people learn at the computer seminar that they come up
Well,
to.
that's very good that you have that, because I want to underscore this issue because I have seen it come up. I'm facing a situation now, and I'll just give it because it illustrates exactly what you're talking about. And even with your efforts to educate them, it's a tough job as a consumer. I don't even like to track down the mortgages, to be honest with you.
It's very difficult.
It's not easy. I have a situation whereby, and this is with an estate, so the person who originated the lien, it was a lien on the matter, a debt that didn't have a date on it, because there are statutes which will say, fine, after a certain period of time, you can do it. Didn't have a date on it, but it's still there on the title, so you have to remove it. So what we had to do is we closed, but we put in escrow $50,000
to solve the problem.
And a certain period of time in which to do it. So what the registrar is saying, it is great to say, go check it. Most are not going to do it because it's an arduous process, but it can be very disruptive when you get down trying to get to the closing.
But a simpler part of the process, and I know we've been talking about, bringing computers in, the modernization. My dad, he's going to be 87. He climbed poles for the Boston Edison, and when you were doing all this modernization, he's like, some time ago, hey, remember, some of us don't know anything about computers, don't care to know anything about computers, don't want to know anything about computers. So I hope your viewers will know this, that we do have a customer service center. We created a customer service center. The number is 781-461-6101. They can call that number directly and say, hey, have my mortgages been paid off? And some people think equity lines aren't mortgages. They are. So if you close out your equity line, you could call our customer service department to make sure, hey, did a discharge get recorded against that document? So, the example you give of people, that's an example on the seller side. On the buyer side, hey, the biggest asset you have is your home. You might want to consider getting a homestead recorded.
A nice segue to exactly what I was going to ask you. Let's talk to them about the homestead, its protection. It's two things that I always do with my clients, the buyers: the homestead and title insurance. So,
sure.
Those two
if all else fails, have insurance.
Right.
No,
right.
You're right. You're right,
but
Joe.
let's explain to folks what a homestead is, what it covers, and the type of security that it gives to a homeowner.
Sure. Well, a homestead is really a creature of the state legislature. There's legislation that's been written. In my time, the protection was $300,000 when I first started as Registrar of Deeds. It's been increased to $500,000, and I try to tell people sometimes what it doesn't protect. If you don't pay the town of Stoughton the taxes, even if you have a homestead recorded, they could take the property by tax title. Or if you don't pay your lender, you don't pay the bank, they can foreclose on you, even though you have a homestead. So some people say, well, why have a homestead? Well, I tell people, most people drive. And just say they're out there driving and they have $100,000 worth of insurance on their car, but they hit somebody pretty bad and they have a $400,000 judgment case against them. Their insurance company is going to write that check for $100,000, but that other $300,000, the advocate for that injured party is going to come looking. And where are they going to look? They're going to look at your assets.
Yes.
And for that reason alone, it's worth having a homestead. It's a 1 or 2 page form, and it affords you protection so that they can't force the sale of your home. It sort of puts a picket fence around your house, and there's a lot of other protections that the homestead gives you. For instance, if you have a homestead recorded, and it can only be on your principal residence. I think that's important to
Yes.
make sure that everyone knows. But I'll tell you what, I was going to college, I had debts when I was 18. If you're 18, there's no age. If you're 18 and you own a property and it's your principal residence, put a homestead on it.
It's only $36 as a filing fee.
The filing fee, again, set by the state legislature, is relatively modest compared to other fees. And it gives you other protections that people may not know about. If you go to sell your home and you have a homestead recorded, the proceeds of that sale are protected for a limited period of time, 1 year. Or just say your house burnt down and the insurance company came and gave you a check to rebuild. If you have a homestead recorded, it protects the proceeds of that insurance check, again, for a limited period of time of 2 years. So there's a lot of little things that have been put into the Homestead Act. You should thank your local state reps and senators for doing that. And they've even expanded it. Now people that have property in trust, depending on the circumstance, are eligible to put homesteads on.
I know in my own practice and over the years that I've been practicing, the changes that you're talking about from the 3 to 500, but also it used to only be in the name of only one, if there were 2 owners, that only in the name of the one owner, but now it's in the name of both. Have it.
Oh,
before there's an automatic, there's at least $125,000 is given automatically in terms of protection under the homestead, and then you have the ones for the elderly one, which is so there are those types of nuances as well.
There are, and again, thank your local legislators, because for the first time in Massachusetts history, as you mentioned, there's an automatic homestead. So if your viewers have done nothing, don't have any homestead, they at least have $125,000 worth of protection. It gets a portion depending on who owns it. And I think some of the changes have been good. For instance, the old days, one spouse could sign it. But when we go out to office hours, people want to see their names on something.
That's
so
right.
the law now requires, if you own the property with your spouse or your significant other or another sibling, all of you have to sign off on the homestead, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that used to cause some consternation when I had closings.
Well, especially when someone dies, they come in and they say, well, your husband put the homestead on, and at the time that protects you. And they come in and they go, well, it might, but I want to see something in my name, and they end up putting another one on. The other thing to consider too, another change on the homestead law, some people didn't realize when they refinanced, they terminated their homestead. I know, again, I had a great community bank, but they have attorneys, and I had kids going to college, still have 2 out, 1 in. You're refinancing, and I say, look, you don't need this language in. It was a 1-sentence clause. Now, no one reads the 30 pages you sign. And what they were doing, that language was terminating your homestead.
That's right.
And again, thank your state legislators. They put language in that says, hey, if that language is in the document, it doesn't kill the homestead. That statute went into effect March 16, 2011. So if you're before that date, you might want to consider it. I was before that date.
Right.
And what happened is I refinanced and I put another homestead on because I didn't want someone 20 years from now, in case I got in trouble or, things happen in life, that I didn't want someone saying, hey, when you refinanced, you had terminated your homestead because you refinanced. So that was a real big change. And you're an attorney, I'm an attorney. Sometimes attorneys get bad names. Talk to them. You might get 10 different opinions. But I always say 9.9 out of 10 would say consumers take advantage of this and get a homestead recorded.
Absolutely, and I even would go further in terms of real estate practice, that a person should not go into this process, buyer or seller, unrepresented. And brokers can't represent you in that type of transaction. And the thing that I always tell the person, because I do a lot of teaching in the area as well, is they always say, well, we have the bank attorney. I said, well, and then what I would say is, okay, whose attorney? Bank's attorney. And when does that person come into the process? They come in at the end of the process. So if you have any questions between the time that you sign that offer and the time that you get to the closing, because they can't give you advice either, you're unrepresented. And if there are any issues, you have no one to ask about them.
And a lot of times the interests are different. The bank attorney cares about the title, as do you.
Yes.
But maybe in new construction, you thought the trees were going to be planted, and that's not the bank attorney's concern.
That's right.
But that's your concern or things like that. But you're right. There's a lot of things that can go on. What I will tell both sellers and buyers, another service, we were the first registry in Massachusetts to put this in. We have a consumer notification anti-fraud program. The FBI is saying that property fraud, Mortgage fraud is one of the fastest growing white collar crimes, and we've seen it in other areas of the county. I haven't seen it in Norfolk County yet, but it's only a matter of time. So what this service is, and I've signed up for it myself, you sign up and you get an email. So my name's William O'Donnell, and any document that says William O'Donnell on it, they shoot me an email. And it gives the customer service number, or you can use the internet and look up the document. Now, we're not going to prevent the fraud, and a lot of times I'm William Patrick O'Donnell. Well, I get William J. O'Donnell, William F. O'Donnell. I don't think getting an email and looking it up is too big a price to pay with all the fraud that's going on.
Sure.
So what would happen, most of the time, as I say, it's not me, it's not my property, but the time that it may, I might look and say, wait a minute,
I didn't sell it.
that's the deed to my house, or
Yeah.
wait a minute, that's a mortgage, I didn't sign that document. And we have links to the law enforcement agencies in the county, and you can get on it. You won't be able to prevent the fraud, but at least you can get on it right away. You can
That's
be
right.
aware of it. Again, try to make the registry relevant to what's going on in the world. That's really our big thing.
Well, by what you've been talking about, Mr. Registrar, you have made it user-friendly, family-friendly, consumer-friendly. And I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. I want to get sponsors, because one of the ways we keep the program going, and talking about our sponsor. But when I come back, I want to talk a little bit more about it, because, as I said from the outset, this is an elected position, and so I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about the politics of that factor, but I also want to talk more about what you do at the registry. So we'll be right back.
Hi, it's Gary LaPierre, and the crew wants to thank Maxie's Delicatessen. That's at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. They're 781-341-1662. American Cancer Society, yes, they're looking for volunteers. Drive cancer patients to and from their treatments. 1-800-ACS-6662, or just go to www.cancer.org. Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry in St. Anthony's Free Market, 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher. That's at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels. Just ask for Jessica. You'll find her at 781-344-8882, extension 2. Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business, they tell us. 27 Rose Glen Street, Stoughton, 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes in Stoughton. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 28. All comments and suggestions welcome. Contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Samaritans, they're at 41 West Street on the 4th floor in Boston, 02111. Their phone number is 617-536-2460. 24-hour helplines for Samaritans, and the number is 877-870-HOPE. That's 877-870-4673. Samaritans, you can find them at 800-252-TEEN. That's 252-8336. Or find them online at SamaritansHope.org.
Get Fresh, Stoughton's own cooking show. New episodes coming soon. Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. And you can view the program on Mondays at 5:30 p.m., Wednesdays at 8 p.m., Thursdays at 9 a.m., Friday at 5 p.m. Get Fresh. We Are United. This is, again, a program that we have here on SMAC. It is on Mondays at 5 p.m., Tuesdays at 9 a.m., Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m., Fridays at 11 a.m., and this is for a healthy Stoughton. You can view it on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon 28. Hometown Business Show. Well, this show talks about what's going on here in Stoughton on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m., Thursdays at 8 p.m., Sundays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. Monday night bingo at Avatora Congregation, 1179 Central Street here in Stoughton. Get there early. The doors open at 4:30 p.m. Games start at 6:30 p.m. Come out, have some fun, spend some money, support a good cause, and see all your friends. And now we're back, Mr. Registrar, and we wanted to talk about a number of things, but I know we wanted to go a little bit more into about some of the scams that have taken place. So could you go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, before the break we talked about sign up for that consumer notification service, but there are other scams that are taking place. For instance, one group solicits, mainly targeting the elderly, for $15 they'll get you a Homestead form. They won't fill it out, it's just a blank form. Now a lot of times when we go to office hours, we bring the Homestead forms with us and try to help people out. Or you could go on our website and you can download them free. So if you hear of anyone getting that type of solicitation for $15, tell them to disregard it. And along that lines, there's a couple of groups out there that kind of prey on individuals. For instance, one group, for $60, they'll get you a certified copy of your deed. And again, if you went on their website, they had a website that used a Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. address, which is where the White House is, same street as the White House. And you would think you couldn't get up in the morning if you didn't have a certified copy of your deed. Now, it's good to have, but as you said, when the buyers are buying or the sellers are selling, the professionals will look up, go down to the registry or go on the website, look up this information. So it's good to have a certified copy of your deed. And if you need one, at most at the registry it costs $1 or $2. And actually when we go, when we do the outreach, we actually provide it free. So it's good to have a certified copy of your deed. Don't pay $60 for it. Go directly to the Registry of Deeds to get it. And along the lines, at least that group gave you a certified copy of your deed. As a matter of fact, they charge you $60 and they would come to the registry and pay $2. This new group, they don't even give you a certified copy. They get you a copy and it looks like a tax bill. It's $86. As a matter of fact, Hank Philippi Ryan from Channel 7 was just at the registry and did a story on this about a month ago because notwithstanding that it's out there and shows like yours are probably the best defense against it is don't fall prey to the scam. It may be legal. We've written to both the past Attorney General, the new Attorney General, the Secretary of State, and in the fine print they emphasize it's a solicitation. But I think it's outrageous. It may be legal, but it doesn't seem right to me. So don't be paying $86. And what they do is they send you a copy of the deed and they give you tax rate information and the assessed value of your property that you can get online or free going to the Stoughton Town Hall. So those are some of the things to be aware of.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think what you are pointing out today is this. If you get these solicitations, as I always say, the phone ones, if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true, hang up. And it could be almost on anything. It could be regarding the property, the trip that you've just run. There's someone waiting for it. There's some money that's there for you, and all you have to do is send $50 in order to get it. Folks, just understand none of that is going to be to your benefit. But I also want, since the camera's on me, the registrar has at the registry a packet that's much like this and is right around where the closing tables are, down on the basement level, and it has almost all of the information that he's talked about. I've used it many a times when I've been there. I haven't prepared the Homestead in my office. I go right to this packet, grab out the Homestead document, and bring it in. So, folks, what we're saying is ignore these scams. Just go ahead and do what you have to do. And like I said, this is the packet that the registrar has there. Take it, go by there, stop by, take a visit by the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. Go downstairs, pick up the packet. You can go home, read it. There's a lot of worthwhile information in it. But stay away from the scams. But beside those consumer issues that you do, Mr. Registrar, what you do is also you help with foreclosure assistance. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, again, that was something, especially in 2008, 2009, we saw a real uptick in foreclosures. And the only involvement the registry really has is by law, if someone's foreclosing on a property, They usually go to a court, the land court most of the time in Boston. And by law, they have to record an order of notice, and it gets recorded at the registry. And we just saw a lot of people struggling with foreclosure. So again, I refer to our website. Go to www.norfolkdeeds.org, because if you know someone, or if you are struggling with foreclosure assistance, we have partnered up with nonprofit groups, Neighbor Works of Southern Massachusetts, as well as Quincy Community Action Program. So what these groups do is they are reaching out to the people that get the orders of notice, because sometimes people don't know where to turn to. And the best advice I can give, first of all, these are nonprofit groups. Part of their counseling service is not just the immediate problem of trying to help you through the process, but they also have financial literacy classes and try to help people address what some of the problems are. And some of it there, by the grace of God, go any one of us. It could be a catastrophic illness, it could be a loss of a job, but these two groups try to help people. And what I also like about them is they'll have that hard conversation, because sometimes they try to keep people in the homes, but some people, they also have that hard conversation about maybe they have to transition, out of the home. And I think what I like is they're nonprofit, and they really do a great service. So people are struggling. If you know anyone who is, refer them to our website. And the best advice I could give is do not wait until they're auctioning off your house. I mean, it's a process, but get advice, especially advice that's free from a nonprofit. Get it early in the process when you're struggling.
And you know what the issue sometimes with that is, people are embarrassed and they don't want to reach out. And again, the message we're saying is there are resources out there. We've talked about attorneys, we've talked about the nonprofit organizations, some of which are community development corporations and other places that are provided. We talk about the service that you're offering. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, wow, I have been to the registry. I wasn't aware of all these services that you are providing. But again, consumers, this is the place that can help you. If you are a property owner, this is the place that can help you. You're getting free advice from the registrar's office. You need to take advantage of it.
Yes, and again, those it's Neighbor Works of Southern Massachusetts and Quincy Community Action Program, and good resources for people that are struggling. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter which community. Norfolk County is made up of 28 communities. Whether it's, there are some very affluent communities. Every community has had somebody struggling with foreclosure. So you're right. People sometimes don't know who to turn to, or maybe there's embarrassment. But if you know someone in that situation, or if you are in that situation, definitely get help sooner than later.
I want to just step out of the registry just for a moment. We'll come back to it, because this is what you do, and you do it so well. But I want folks to understand that you are an elected official. That means you have to run for this position. I want them to know how long the term is, when the next election cycle is, and all of the things pertaining to that. Because I received the information since I'm in Norfolk County,
Yeah.
but I don't have a memory, and I know you can better tell it than I can.
Well, politics is always, as I said, I went to Georgetown University and worked for Congressman Moakley, and politics has always been a hobby, but yes, it is an elected position. I think this job combines sort of the politics, I guess, with administering and law. I mean, I was in the private practice, so
Sure.
The challenges of law are also what makes practice in law a great profession, in my opinion. But it is an elected term. It's 6 years. 6-year term, and 2018 would be the next election cycle, as with a lot of the state offices that are coming up. To me, the best politics is you just try to do the best job you can, and I think at the registry that's what we strive for. I mentioned the mission is probably the same as 1793. Make sure the records are accurate, recorded accurately and securely, and they can be relied on. But what we've tried to do, I think it should be done in a customer service-oriented manner, and that's what I've learned from whether as a town meeting member to working as an assistant district attorney or to working for Congressman Moakley. Hey, you know, the residents, you're delivering a service, so we try to do it in a very customer service-oriented manner.
I also notice, and thank you for that, and I say to the viewing audience, you know, I can do it. You know, the registrar didn't put me up to it to talk about it. He's doing a great job there, and in my opinion, is worthy of re-election when that comes up in 2018. But he also can find support for his program. And this is, as they say as a disclaimer, this isn't smack. This is Joesph Feaster speaking to you as a host of this program. But again, look at the work that he does and make your judgment based upon that. But you also go beyond that, because when you do identify, and you've said it a few times, when you do identify some issues or problems in what's happening with people and or the involvement with the registry, what you will do is reach out to the legislators and to raise these questions to see if they can resolve them. And I know that in the literature I received, there were some Senate bills, one that's currently before the Joint Committee on Judiciary, that is requiring residential mortgage assignments to be recorded within 30 days. How did that come about?
Right. Well, part of the job at Register, in my opinion, is to get up there at the legislature when you see issues. We've mentioned things with the Homestead. You know, some of those changes is because registers, and I'm part of that Registers of Deeds Association, brought some of those things to the legislature and said, hey, you got to change things up. Before I get into the legislation you mentioned, we just we worked on legislation for the last 2 years that got signed into law this past January by Governor Baker, where it allowed us to do electronic recording in the land court. There are two types of land here in Norfolk County, recorded land and land court land. We were one of the first registries to do electronic recording on the recorded land side.
Yeah.
We were the first registry, April 12th of this year, to take a document electronically on the land court side. And what electronic recording is for your viewers is an attorney here in Stoughton or Bellingham could do their closing, look up the information online, and then transmit the documents. Now, I love them to come by 649 High Street, but a lot of the practitioners, you know, they have a business plan, and they found it more efficient and better for them to have electronic recording, so they can transmit the documents to the registry and get it recorded. So that's the type of thing. We couldn't have done that in the land court unless we got a change in the legislation. Well, we have another bill up there. So we're successful on that piece of legislation.
That's huge. That's huge as a practitioner. Land court is strict. You know, because I'm not, and you and I won't get into the reasons for that, but land court recording is strict.
Right, and most of the time to the consumers, you don't have to worry as much. There are some protections if you're in the land court as far as adverse possession, but the attorneys, you know, the deeds look the same. It's just the attorneys know that the land court can be very strict. Well, the legislation that you reference, it's Senate Bill 880 and House Bill 790. We've had great support by the Norfolk County legislators, but this is the third legislative session we filed it. So each legislative session is 2 years. So we haven't been as successful on this one. But to me, it's common sense. When people pay good money to, you know, the bank takes it from you to record a mortgage. Well, a lot of times these mortgages are getting assigned. And we're finding, we talked about the discharges, when people come to record the discharges, they're like, hey, I remembered who I paid, but I don't know who the lender was. And to me, I think every time a mortgage gets assigned, they should just record the assignments. To me, it's transparency. And with the age of the internet, all the people have to do would be to go online and to see, oh yeah, here are the assignments. I think it helps people when they're trying to track a discharge.
Well, you know what? That's one of the reasons I said earlier. There's two things that I would tell a buyer: title insurance and homestead. I laughingly or say when we're sitting, because we're one of the few states that have closings done by lawyers. Most places have title insurance companies that do it. Most places around the country. But I always tell folks, love the lawyer, but buy the title insurance. For the reason we're talking about, because if the assignment's not there, title insurance company has to go and track that down. They're on the hook for it, and they have to correct the issue.
Yes, and what we're seeing because of that, a lot of times closings aren't taking place because assignments aren't there,
That's correct.
and it's a title issue before you even get to close. But as you point out, no substitute for, title insurance is good to have because the attorneys are certifying certain things, but title insurance protects against other things. Someone might put a fence through your yard. Well, you could turn to your title insurance company and say, wait a minute, that's on my yard, and
right.
get some defense.
And why I do it, I tell them, and I jokingly do it there, but jokingly very seriously, but I also tell them that because if you do not have it, if the issue comes up and you have to pay an attorney in order to correct it, it can be quite expensive for you to do it. Whereas if you have title insurance, you just call up the title insurance policyholder
and it's a one-time fee. People think
right.
It's like car insurance you're paying every year. It's a one-time fee. But we're hoping to get some more progress on this new legislation. We did have a hearing in front of the Joint Committee on Judiciary, as you mentioned, and we have over 67 sponsors. So it's not just Norfolk County legislators. So we have a breadth of legislators who are recognizing, wait a minute, this is sort of transparency. It's if mortgages are getting recorded, if mortgages are changing hands, don't you think the people who are impacted about it should know who the entities are that are holding it?
I'm surprised the conveyancing bar hasn't signed on.
Because I think they're afraid of liability. I think you know what I mean, because a lot of times, let's face it, sometimes they don't always do the right thing and record it. But I think in this case, I just think it's a simple thing. And actually, the legislation, we're trying to work with people. I don't want to punish people if it's not recorded. I just want to get it out there. It should be recorded. And as one of my fellow registers said, hey, they're paying $175, which is the cost to record a mortgage. They should at least know who's holding it as the seasons go on, as the term goes on. But
we're getting to to a little towards the end of the program, but I wanted to talk about, because you have some extensive outreach efforts that you have undertaken, dealing, and we've talked about some of them, dealing with the community, keeping consumers updated, going out to meet with veterans and councils on aging. Let's let folks know how you have done the outreach part of your efforts.
Well, the outreach, the cornerstone of it has been the fact that we can tie into the records, and I think because of the computers, because of shows like yours, people are starting to learn more about, wait a minute, that sleepy arm of government, the registry, there are things that they can help me with. So we see a lot of people coming by to have their questions answered, checking up on their mortgages, seeing some people forget, they might not remember if they have a homestead recorded. So that's a principal part of our outreach, is to go out, talk about the registry, and if we can help people in any way, we can, because we can bring the records with us.
But here we're showing some of the outreach efforts as meetings with staff members of yours.
Sure, we bring staff members, and this outreach takes place at town halls around the county. We have 28 communities. We go by, as I say, the various community groups, whether it's the Rotaries, the Lions, the Chamber of Commerce's. We've been to a lot of groups like that. And other part of the outreach that we like to do at the registry is more, to help those that are less fortunate. I don't know, life's been good to me, but one thing I learned going to Severian Brothers High School or the Jesuits at Georgetown and BC, if you could try to help people out, see if you can. And because we're centrally located at the registry, and the jurors come up every day upstairs, and the law library's there, we hold certain functions at the registry. For instance, we have a food drive. We collect items to try to get it out to the food pantries. And if you can't come by the registry, again, go to our website. We have a list of every food pantry in Norfolk County, because they need food all year. So go directly to them all year to make sure that those people are taken care of. Another program that we've had a good success with, we call it the Suits for Success, but it's not just suit coats, it's women's clothes, scarves, purses. We collect these items. A lot of people come by and drop the items off, and we've partnered up. Those items get to Father Bill's place in
Yes,
Mainspring.
yes.
We have donated items there. There's Interfaith Social Services, which also has a career closet for women that are interviewing, so they help them get prepared for the interviews and the clothes. And we recently partnered up with the Veterans Administration over in Jamaica Plain, where we drop these, suits, pocketbooks, things like that off. So I'm dating myself. Sometimes the plan room downstairs looks like Filene's basement, but we collect the items and we get them out, and it's been good. And with the holidays upon us for 11 years, the Marines, we thank them for their service to the country, but we've partnered up. We have a Toys for Tots drop-off point at our registry, and it's again, we try to do things like that because there are those in our communities that are struggling or aren't as fortunate, and if we can help them out in any way, I think that's what it's about too.
And I'm happy that we are doing this program today because with all that you've talked about that you do, and I have frequented the registry doing my business at the registry, but a lot of the other things, the community outreach, the services that you are providing are unbeknownst to me, and I'm there, so I'm hopeful that our viewing audience understands exactly and can participate in some of the community efforts that you are engaged in, but also to utilize it for the services that they may need. So I'm hopeful that this program is getting out to them and that they learn, and as the producer Roy Cohen came in and said, I've learned a lot about what the registry does. So,
and again, I know because of the trends of the times, we've talked a lot about the internet and all that, but come by one of the office hours or call our customer service number, 781-461-6101. You can either drop by our customer service center and they will take care of you. We have staff in that department who look up information, do what we do when we're out at office hours or out with the community groups. But you can call up, and as I said, if the computers, if you're afraid of the computers or you don't want to go on the website, call that number, 781-461-6101, and reach out for some help, and we'll try to help you.
Well, this has been an interesting time. We're about to close of the program. I want to thank you so much for being here and also giving this information. I want to wish you and our viewing audience a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, and a safe and prosperous New Year, both to you, Mr. Register, your staff, and to our viewing audience. I want to wish them that.
Joe, thanks very much, and I echo those sentiments. Those are great sentiments, and thanks so much. And again, thanks to Stoughton Media for doing this.